Aloha, my name is Julie Mitchell, and I am the Executive Director here at Ikahi Mediation Center. We are one of 5 nonprofit mediation centers in the state, and collectively we have a contract with the Judiciary Center for Alternative Dispute Resolution, which Anne, our speaker, is an employee of, among her many other things that she does. We are very pleased to welcome you to our Finding Solutions Growing Peace Brown Bag Lunch series. And a little bit about Ikahi Mediation Center. We started out back in 1983. We were a program of the island of Hawaii, YMCA, and we became our own independent nonprofit in 2006. So next year will be 40 years in operations. Our mission is to empower people to come together, to talk and to listen, to explore options and to find their own best solutions. And to achieve this mission, we offer mediation, facilitation, and training, like today's brown bag, to strengthen the ability of diverse individuals and groups to resolve interpersonal conflicts and community issues. This brown bag lunch series is held every third Thursday at 12 noon on Zoom, and you just have to register on Eventbrite each time to receive the Zoom link. At the end of our talk today, we are going to ask you to fill a short online survey, which helps with our grant funding for this free series. So when I put the survey link in the chat, just click into it and take a few minutes to give us your thoughts. I will also be sending out an email at the end of today's talk, and it will have the slides and a link to the video. And I will again put the survey link there because I've been told a few people can't click into it in Zoom for some reason. The sooner you do it, the better for us, because we use those statistics all the time. If you like today's talk, please feel free to register for more in the future. Our next speaker will be on not January, I'm already in the new year, September 15th, it's Fred Jant, and he will be talking on the topic, morality, justice, and conflict. What do people need to accept a resolution? And I'm going to give you the link in the chat to register for that. And I believe I saw Fred come on today to watch so he could get a feeling for our series. So that link is in the chat now. Without further ado, I would like to introduce today's topic and speaker. Today we have Anne-Marie Smoke, and she is speaking on communicating with empathy, the path to seeing more deeply. Anne-Marie Smoke is Appellate Mediation Program Administrator and Trainer for the Center for Alternative Dispute Resolution at the Hawaii State Judiciary. She holds a graduate certificate in conflict resolution and MS in travel industry management, sustainable tourism. She is a facilitator for multiple policy development and strategic planning initiatives, and she has 17 years of training experience, including teaching conflict management practices. Please help me give a warm welcome to Anne-Marie Smoke.
Well, thank you, Julie, and congratulations on your anniversary. Aloha, everybody, and welcome. I see a lot of familiar faces there. That's always comforting. So thank you for coming today, and thank you for your interest. I'd like to start first by qualifying myself and the presentation I'm about to give. And I do that by telling you the truth. I got into conflict resolution because I was really good at conflict and I needed to learn the resolution part. So I loved it. I have my certificate from the Matsunaga Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution, and I got a lot out of it. So my job as a trainer is to gather all the information that I collect over the years from things I do, things I practice I do with other people, things I read, and put it together in ways that I think are going to make sense and help you to understand better skills and tools, and to fill your toolboxes with some of these things that might be useful to you. So today, the topic is empathy. And you know, I want to start with saying that we all have the goal to be happy, basically, right? And at work, our goal is to get the job done well, and hopefully, you know, by the end of the day, we've worked well with other people, we've had a good day, we can go home, have nice discussions over dinner. That's usually our kind of a basic goal that we have in life, right? It's just to get through day to day and to be happy. So to achieve our goals in our personal lives and at work, we rely on many people interacting, making minute by minute decisions, even second by second ones, right? About how we interact. So throughout this session, I'm going to ask you to consider how you might use what you learn to diversify your lenses so that you see people differently and find ways to make sure that the people you interact with each day are heard, they're valued, and they're supported. All right. It's about communicating in deep ways that lead to understanding, communicating with empathy, in other words. So to combat confirmation bias or other cognitive implicit biases, so you can truly see and understand the interests and concerns and the needs of the diverse body of people, the human beings that you interact with every day. Hopefully, this will also ensure that your interests and concerns and needs are being communicated, opening the door for others to make that connection to you as well. Okay, so empathy's got many, many parts to it. So I'm going to share a slideshow with you, and if you have questions, pop them in the chat box or save them to the end. Either way, we'll get to them at the end if you have questions, and hopefully we'll have time to address all of them. Okay, so let's start with my PowerPoint. So let me know if, Julie, if everybody's seeing what I hope they're seeing. No, we're seeing.
We're seeing a sort of a odd version of it.
Yeah, so let me get back to this. Let me stop this. This is what I was saying earlier.
There's, you know, Zoom is wonderful, and sometimes the tech doesn't work exactly as we like. So we're patient and waiting for you to get yourself ready. When we tested it out earlier, it worked.
It worked.
So, yeah.
That's always the case too. It works when we test it out, and then when we're ready for it, what goes on? Okay, so let's try this again. Let me try sharing. Okay.
We don't see anything yet, Anne.
No, not yet.
We can see your notes version. You have to do it from the view. There you go.
There we go.
Perfect.
We got it.
Perfect.
We're in business, everybody. Okay. So, so today I'm going to start with the premise that if we can all learn to be empathic, we'll be better understood and we'll better understand each other in the world. Okay. And we're going to be happier for it. So starting with that end goal of collective happiness, let's do a quick study of the facts and theory about conflict and conflict communications and habits. And then we're going to end up hopefully with happiness, or where happiness must begin, and that's with empathy and kindness. Okay, so we're going to kind of do this in a deductive approach. So first, I'm going to lay some groundwork and give the premise that I just laid a solid foundation. Okay, number one, we're all human, and humans are complex and flawed. Number two, we are all going through challenging times, polarizing politics, a pandemic or possibly two pandemics, precarious economy, the inflated cost of living. Social media is on steroids, and it exacerbates all of these matters at a cyber speed, and it builds walls higher and higher around communities rigidly fixed in the uniformity around a singular perspective or set of values, right? Because that's who we cling to. When we're uncomfortable, we look for comfort. When we're scared, we look for comfort. So these crises are challenging and overwhelming, and they create a great deal of conflict, both outward in our families, communities, and workplaces, and inward as we try to navigate life. Since our prehistoric ancestors started walking upright, humans relied on this innate human reaction or fear for survival. And you know all about this. It's fight or flight, right? The fight or flight response. In scientific terms, it's the acute stress response because it's a response to an acute threat to survival. And it's marked by actual physical changes in our body. We get flooded with hormones like adrenaline, and we will sweat, our heart rate increases, our body reacts in almost a violent manner because it's preparing us to react or retreat for survival, right? It's all about survival. It's actually an automatic reaction. And again, it's to a perceived harmful event or attack, right? The saber-toothed tiger creeping up behind us. Our brain's neocortex, when this happens, actually shuts down, okay? The amygdala part of the brain takes over. You've heard of amygdala hijack. It takes over. And when that happens, we lose our ability to reason, communicate, and empathize. There's no logic involved. We react purely on habitual instinct. Okay, so evolutionarily, this makes sense. But how does this impact a day in the office or the annual Thanksgiving family dinner? Well, many of the perceived threats we encounter these days are not physical, but rather cognitive. All of this plays an important role in how we process our emotions, like the emotions that are triggered when we face conflict. It's how we protect ourselves. Our fears during chaos or conflict may seem small compared to facing the saber-toothed tiger, but our brains and nervous systems don't know the difference. We experience the same neurological impulses when we face day-to-day chaos and conflict, or even just in the presence of an adversary. Okay, so it's the same thing. Imagine that. So why is all of this science important?
Can't see the slideshow.
Oh, you can't see the slideshow? Julie, can you see the slideshow?
Yep. You may just need to change your view, your individual view, I believe. Are those on camera? Can you mostly see the slideshow? Les, can you see the slideshow?
Absolutely, it looks fine.
Okay.
You're on the same slide with George Bernard Shaw, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So I ask, so we're talking science. Why is all this science important? Well, understanding the fight or flight response affects our mind and body. The effects our mind and body, they can help us counteract many of the negative effects. Okay, so because we as humans all have this in common, it's part of our DNA. And if you understand that, you can forgive yourself, and it can give you a new lens through which you can look at your adversary. So enough neuroscience. Let's turn to psychology and something else that we all have in common. You're all familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We have basic needs at the bottom and more high-level intangible needs at the top. A person can only move on from the lower needs to the upper needs by addressing the basic needs, right? So you can't move to the higher level needs until your basic needs are addressed. The bottom line is that when we want a sense of meaning and if we want that sense of purpose and meaning in life, which is what we do, it's what we're all striving to do, we need to work on these needs. We have to make sure that we're attending to our safety, we're attending to our psychological needs, our social needs, our esteem needs. Okay, so those all have to be attended to. The bottom line is we want to be valued. And that's why this matters. Maslow's hierarchy of needs continues to be widely popular and mostly well accepted. And it's largely correct in cultures all over the world. If we fulfill our basic needs, we'll be happy, we'll be fulfilled. So let's connect the dots from psychology to neuroscience. At the core of all conflict is a need that is not being met. When our needs are not met, that causes perceived threat. Okay, so when a need is not being met, a saber-toothed tiger is creeping up behind us. With the tiger, the threats to our safety are obvious. The need is to survive. When our basic human needs come under attack, the threat is more cognitive and may come in the form of criticism, which is a threat to our identity, or we may be humiliated and our value is disregarded. We might feel marginalized or outcast. Any of those common occurrences are threats that trigger the fight or flight response. And we react to protect our identity and our dignity and to defend our sense of purpose and belonging. I mentioned that our fight or flight response comes in knee-jerk reactions, right? It's automatic. With cognitive threats, we may want to run, freeze, or fight, but it's not always appropriate. So our brains find other ways to manage. Those reactions manifest in aggression or acting out, passive-aggressive behavior, avoidance and apathy. We become exclusive of others who don't agree with us or don't want to become our ally. And we often let our prejudices take over, so we form biases to validate our stance. These reactions are developed and adjusted over time, and they become habits. We seek comfort in things that are familiar, and we seek out people who agree with us or who share a familiar set of values. It helps to reinforce our habitual responses for more comfort. Now, if our habitual behavior is causing us to put up shields and build walls, it's also limiting our ability to communicate effectively and to explore understanding. Anger and misunderstanding can spiral, causing a strain on our relationships, breakdowns, confirmed biases, more lashing out, and exclusion, and the cycle goes on, okay? So how do we see, whoops, I'm sorry. So how do we see more deeply? I'm going to just introduce this idea of seeing more deeply, and then we're going to figure out how to get out of that cycle. Okay. We've established that truly being seen by others is deeply important to human beings. We want others to recognize our humanity, to affirm that we are valued for who we are. We want to be seen as a valued member of our tribe, right? Our team, our family, our friends. We want to be seen as capable. Even when we make a mistake, we want to be valued for being a generally effective human being or effective employee or coworker. Well, when we're in conflict with somebody, our ability to recognize and acknowledge the human in front of us with all of their flaws, with all of their beauty, to acknowledge them becomes, it diminishes. Okay, so let me say that again. When we're in conflict with someone, our ability to recognize and acknowledge the human in front of us diminishes. So what do we do to break this cycle? Well, we start with empathy. Empathy at its core is a human-to-human acknowledgement and the ability to read each other, a human-human ability to read. Professor Stephanie Blondell of Pepperdine Strauss Institute refers to a social scientist, Set, for her definition, and I think it's a good one. A complex form of psychological inference in which observation, memory, knowledge, and reasoning are combined to yield insight into the thoughts and feelings of others. Okay, now remember, when fight or flight kicks in and our neocortex shuts down or takes over, we lose our ability for logic. We lose our ability for reasoning. Okay, so thus we are losing our ability to see that human in front of us. So empathy is going to help us to reintroduce that. So more good news from science. Empathy is embedded physiologically in our systems as well. There are neurons and mirror neurons that allow us to experience something that somebody else is experiencing. When you watch a movie, for instance, and somebody gets emotional and they cry, there's heartache, you can feel it. When there's a lot of anger and you're watching that, you're witnessing it, or somebody you care about is really upset about something that happened at work, you experience that just as if it's part of your own world, it's part of your reality. Okay, and those are our mirror neurons that are kicking in, allowing us to do that. So the ability for empathy is built in. So now how do we introduce empathy actively to the equation? Now remember that when we're in conflict, the rational part of our brain is not working. It's not supposed to. You're in survival mode. Okay, you need to reset the neocortex of the brain. And here's how to do that. I'm going to start with take 20. And why 20? Well, because when you are in crisis mode, when your fight or flight kicks in, there's an 18-minute cycle that takes place for that fight or flight the adrenaline, all of that stuff being released to slow down and go back to stasis. Okay, so 18 to 20 minutes it takes for that cycle. So knowing that actually gives you a lot of power, right? Right there, you've got a tool, something you know that you can use and apply when you're in crisis, when you're in conflict, or when you're dealing with conflict. Okay, so take 20 minutes to stop and breathe, take a walk, meditate, whatever you do to reset yourself. Some people exercise. You might want to sing. You might want to find something that makes you laugh. Keep something handy that makes you laugh so you can have that moment to reset. But take the time to do that. If it's a heated conflict, if you walk into something and it's difficult, it's tough, and you can feel your heart rate increase, you can feel your body heat, take 20. Okay, it'll be worth it. Reflect on your reactions. Are you acting out of habit? Okay, has this worked for you in the past? What's going on? Is there something you can do to adjust and to do it differently? Okay. So, oh, I'm sorry, I'm jumping to self-reflection without even mentioning it. Step 2, so you've stopped, you breathed, you've taken 20 minutes. Now I want you to engage in that self-reflection I just mentioned. Okay, so take that 18 minutes, look inward again, reflect on your reactions. What's going on? Is this a habit? Can I do it differently? What's happened in the past when I've done this? So number 3, be curious. Okay, we need to take ourselves out of the immediate chaos, raise ourselves to a higher altitude, and try to recognize how others are seeing the same situation. And how do you do that? You all know the answer to this, and that's active listening. Okay, number 4, and this is the hard one. We're going to talk about exact ways you can do that. I'm going to give you 5 good habits you can work on at the end of this, and that is develop these new habits. Okay, and so we're going to get to more on creating new habits in just a minute. Okay, but the key is to take 20, to find a way to introduce empathy, and all of these actions are going to help you to do that. Okay, so let's start with the inward reflection. Okay, you've already done the breathing, you've already done the exercise, you've let your neocortex reset. So let's go to that inward reflection now. Okay, this is being aware of how you want to be seen. What do you think you are contributing to this conflict? Okay, and what do you think you are contributing in life that is not being recognized? What value do you feel is being marginalized, or how are you being marginalized or disregarded? Okay, what is the gift that is not being seen? This is really important. Take time to think about this. And as a matter of fact, I think you should take more time to think about this daily. What gift am I bringing today that's important to me, and that is important that it's recognized? Because I can tell you a lot of conflict happens and we overlook that. We jump right to defending ourselves and blaming other people, and we're not recognizing that there's something that was being missed, something that we are presenting that's not being recognized. And if we can communicate that, that can change everything. Okay, and that's easy because you're fully in control of yourself. That's all you have 100% control over. So that can be a first step right there in mitigating or reducing a conflict, is just recognizing what about yourself is, what's going on with yourself, what's happening, what's not being recognized. Okay, so you need to talk openly about what's being misunderstood or what's being missed. Nobody's going to read your mind. And here's a one-liner right there on the screen. Can you help me out here? What do you think I'm trying to say? Okay. Remember that you have to remind yourself of this, but this is so true. Your voice is worth sharing. So don't overlook this important step, this self-reflection, and recognizing what is important to you that needs to be recognized. Okay, so can you help me out here? What do you think I'm trying to say? Okay. If we think we're not being recognized, be really frank about it. Say what matters to you. What's important to me is acknowledgement that I'm good at what I do, even if I just screwed up. Okay. It feels like my integrity is in question here, and I want to talk about that. Okay, be open about it. Don't make people read your minds. Tell them what's bothering you about it. Tell them what is missing, what's being overlooked. Okay, the next step, once you know how you want to be seen, and then you need to turn your focus to seeing other people more deeply. Okay, so seeing someone starts with legitimizing their concerns and their differences. You don't have to agree with them, but you do need to recognize they have a point of view and that their truth is their truth, and that's important to them, just as it is for you. Just as you wanted to be seen and all of those truths were important to you, that recognition was important to you, be aware that it's important to other people, that their truth is important, their gift is important. Okay, so what does it sound like to legitimize somebody? Engage in conversation that will help to establish a deeper connection with others, including just making empathy a whole body experience. Okay, so it sounds like what active listening sounds like. It sounds like asking questions. It sounds like seeking understanding. It sounds like summarizing and reframing for better understanding. Okay, and remember that when humans communicate, we use two main channels, verbal and nonverbal communication. So if you want to truly be seen and you want to see other people, you've got to make this whole body experience, your communication, a whole body experience. You want to make sure you're expressing yourself with the good nonverbal cues. You're addressing people properly with eye contact. You're open to them. Making sure that you're showing them that you want to see them, that you want to understand better. Okay, nonverbal communication is nuanced. Okay, it enhances the verbal content, which is easy to say, but the nonverbal cues enhance that and make it better understood. Okay, so in any form of conversation, there's a listener and a speaker, and there's going to be a regular exchange. Okay, listening is about making sense of the noise, and active listening is about the exchange. It's about making sure that you are being reflective, that you are being curious and asking questions, that you're summarizing, reframing, paraphrasing what's said to make sure that the message that's being communicated is understood, that it's clear, both parties are on the same page. Okay. Another part of active listening comes with recognizing and addressing other people's emotions. Okay, Ruth Bader Ginsburg says it well. Explain your emotions, don't exhibit them. Okay, and this is all going to be part of your good empathic communication. You want to say right out, I see that you're frustrated. I see that you're really angry about this playing out. I see that you feel left out. Let them know that they're seen. Be very frank about that. Communicate understanding. Talk about what happened. Talk about the feelings. Don't guess. Say what you know, which is how you feel and what you're experiencing. And again, recognize what you see the other person has experienced. The more we understand each other, the better we're going to be at solving the problems together. Okay. And with that better understanding, you start to understand the key interests. And we've all been through those slides and trainings where we learned that it's not about the positions, it's about the interests. With empathy, you go beyond the positions. You can go deeper by really truly seeing somebody and seeing their interests. Okay, so here's a couple good one-liners to see more deeply. And again, this is all about better disagreement. It's about talking rather than acting emotionally. So you will come right out and say, be frank about it. What you're saying matters to me. Help me to understand it better. Okay, it doesn't get much more empathetic than that, to be honest with you. What you're saying matters to me. I mean, think about somebody saying that to you, how that feels. I feel relief automatically, even just saying the words. What you say matters to me. Help me to understand it better. How can you go wrong with that when you're in conflict with somebody, when you're in a disagreement? Help me to understand it better. That's truly wanting to see somebody. Okay, so try remembering that, well, let me get to, I'm going to talk a little bit about recognizing or not being miserly with compliments, about complimenting people, but we'll get to that in just a second. So I'm just going to throw these one-liners out for you, more one-liners for empathic seeing, for really good discussion, introducing empathy into conflict. Okay, so what is the most important thing you want me to understand right now? Or here's what I want you to understand about what's going on. Let me be sure I heard what you just said. What you're saying matters to me. We've already been there. I want to understand it better. I want to know what outcome you're hoping for. Okay, if you want, take these, lift all of these empathic conversation starters, paste them on the wall, write them on your bulletin board, put them on your refrigerator, have them ready to go. Okay, because if you really want to slow things down, if you want to reset your own neocortex, if you want to help other people reset your cortex, their neocortex, you want to be able to start with these empathic one-liners. Okay, so here's what I was going to say about recognition. Don't be miserly with recognizing what matters to people. If you really want to see them, you've got to allow yourself space to say things like, you know, if you've had a fight with somebody and you said, you know, you're not pulling your weight around the office, I'm doing all the work. Try reframing that and saying, you know, it seems like you're not pulling your weight around here. I know I've said that you're not pulling your weight around the office. I wasn't meaning to imply that you don't do it all the time. I'm grateful for how much you contribute around here. So when you didn't do it, and when you didn't do it that day, I needed it, it just stood out. Okay, so you can compliment people without changing the communication, but you're just not being miserly about recognizing what matters to them. Okay, so you can get the same message across by actually recognizing what matters to them and sharing what matters to you as well. Okay, another way might be, I want you to know that that task wasn't handled well, but I also want you to know that it stood out because so much of what you do is such high quality. It's done with excellence. So that it stood out this particular time. Another way to disagree better is to help people save face. And I'm going to plop an article in chat at the end of this that I'd like you to read and take with you. And it's 10 ways to allow others to save face. And that's going to give you a nice list of ways to do that. It just helps people preserve their dignity. And it starts with the premise that a person's dignity is worth the world to them and it's worth nothing to you. So just remember that helping people save face, especially when things are going wrong, not being miserly about the recognition and allowing them to save face in the situation. So let's get to habits. If how we respond to others is largely a function of habit, this means that if we can retrain ourselves, to form new habits, it's going to result in a new set of responses, better and more empathic responses. Empathy is a habit we all need to cultivate. So you can teach an old dog new tricks. There's the good news. And there's more science behind this. And there's an article called The 5 Habits of an Empathetic Communicator by Louise Altman. And Louise says that most of the choices we make each day are not the product of well-considered decision-making, they're habits. They have enormous impact on our health, productivity, financial security, and our relationships, and ultimately our happiness. So she goes on to talk about the small, repetitive, automatic responses that grow over a long period of time form these habits. And mostly these reactions are outside of our conscious awareness. We've just over time developed a way to react to things that provide us comfort. They're built on foundations formed by our beliefs, and in most cases, they're fixed, okay? They're usually reinforcing old beliefs and old habits. So we mostly react with what Altman calls keystone habits, which are so deeply ingrained over time and repetition that they become automatic in order to clear our RAM to make us more efficient. Makes sense. If these habits or these automatic responses govern our moment-to-moment behaviors, you want those to mirror the best of your intentions, right? So if the motivation for most of our habits is outside of our conscious awareness, we're functioning more on autopilot, which is what gets us into trouble. The great news is that research shows that habits can be changed. The brain makes room for new habits that eventually overtake the old and wanted ones. And here's where you can start introducing empathy. How do you get to be good at something? Well, you practice, right? You can only improve your skills by practice. So think of empathy as a muscle that we need to exercise or a habit that we need to practice. It's the basis for understanding, and it helps us to achieve effective, successful balance and communication. So we have to practice empathy, groom our natural empathic impulses so they become those keystone habits. So we're going to make empathy automatic. And I'm going to give you 5 good habits that you can practice. And these are 5 habits of an empathic or empathetic, however, whichever word you choose, communicator. Habit number 1, it's based on beliefs. Now remember, we talked about going inward and doing that self-reflection first when you do your take 20, the self-reflection. Well, this starts by looking at your beliefs. Okay, they're powerful filters that can be resistant to change, but even in the face of compelling facts and experiences, we can change that habit by looking inward and excavating the roots of our beliefs about empathy, compassion, communication, and trust, and the relationships that we've made, so we can form natural empathic responses. Okay, so this is all self-reflection. So really excavate the roots of those beliefs that have driven our habits and see if we can figure out where that comes from. What belief, what happened in our experience, and what was it driven by in life that has caused us to have that reaction time and again. Okay, because if we can figure that out, you get to the root of what's caused it, and you can start to dismantle that and incorporate some of your new beliefs in wanting to improve your interactions with people. Okay, habit number 2, focus and attention. Now this gets to our other take 20, and that's good communication. Okay, active listening, because we talked earlier about the kind of frantic pace to life we face these days. And in the overwhelm of life, we tend to want to focus on things that give us tangible results, right? So we become task driven and we lose the sight of the important nonverbal cues that people are giving us. We tune out the distress signals. We're actually not seeing others in need. And it can be as simple as overlooking the stress or the worry that is obvious in someone's speech, their tone, their facial expressions, any number of ways that they're communicating that distress. And we're overlooking it because we've become task driven. Okay, so unless we intentionally shift our focus toward what's happening with others, we're likely to overlook their needs. Okay, and that need is usually a cue for that empathic response. And so you're going to want to pay attention, focus on nonverbal communication, focus on tone, focus on body language, and really sense and understand what's going on with people around you. So again, this is all part of your active listening arsenal. Habit number 3 is practicing self-empathy. Okay, and I heard it said, and I put it in here because I like the way it was said, put your oxygen mask on first before you help others. Okay, so there's a strong correlation between the amount of empathy that you extend to yourself and what you feel and express towards others. So if we can't listen to our own inner needs, which we talked about, identifying that right up front, if we can't listen to our own inner needs, wants, and feelings with loving acceptance, our ability to be tolerant and patient with others is limited. Habit number 4, boundaries. Often we don't allow ourselves to dwell in our natural empathic responses because we feel we'll lose our perspective or get sucked into other people's dramas. One excuse I hear for not feeling or acting empathically is that I can't really help that person with their problem, or this isn't the place to discuss personal problems, or the classic, I don't have time. A little empathy goes a long way to expand your boundaries. Okay, so that's a really important one, expanding your boundaries. And often that just comes in small acts of kindness. Just those few minutes when we authentically attempt to connect with others, they can have a huge impact on how others feel and view us. Okay, so you're opening doors, you're really making a human connection by expanding those boundaries and taking the time, take that moment to provide that act of kindness. And habit number 5, listen and trust your body. True empathy is not a mental construct, it's an emotional, whole body experience that can be learned. Empathy is a feeling. We can block empathy and deny the truth of our bodily experience through judgment and rationalization, but these are barriers against allowing our natural inclinations toward empathy. So let it seep out. It's there, it's in you. Let it go. Now, sadly, especially in law or in the workplace, we're trained to muffle or subdue some of these neurological impulses to show empathy. In other words, we train ourselves to avoid that experience. In human connection, we need to do that to understand and connect with people. So we've got to overcome some of this training that we've had in life to not address that at the workplace, or not try to show the empathic listening techniques that we have to open up to people, to try to understand. Okay, so we want to ignore those institutional mores and that are set up that actually force us to ignore the human dimension, and in favor of focusing on whatever performance, profit, following protocol often is the excuse. Okay, so put that stuff aside and really really allow yourself to just get into that internal empathic neuro response that you have. If we judge a context for empathy as inappropriate, actually, we're going to, again, I'm repeating myself, but we're going to subdue those impulses. Okay, so we don't want to judge people as unworthy, or we're going to shut down those feelings toward them and people like them. So we ultimately have the power to choose and to respond to other people in an empathic manner. So I'm going to put this, I think, pretty important tool forth to you to look at. And what I'm about to tell you is, it's hopeful, it's empowering, and it's a little bit scary. Because with this knowledge, you're going to see that we as individuals really need to take account of our actions and the impact that we have in the world. All right, we need to be accountable. We experience approximately 20,000 individual encounters every day, each lasting just a few seconds. The moments that make an indelible mark on our memory are not the neutral encounters that we have with others, but the ones that are either positive or negative. Even though these encounters are only seconds long, they can be life-changing. And that can be in a good way, or it can be in a devastating way. If you can change someone's life in just a few seconds, why not make it for the better and get the added payoff of cultivating a happy, more productive workplace or community? It all starts by establishing a culture of positive exchanges. So think of the chain reaction caused by small acts of kindness, like opening the door or helping someone get down a staircase, giving them change when they're short and they're in the line in front of you at the cashier. You save them embarrassment. Okay, so from these acts of kindness, the recipient often will go on and pay it forward. Do you remember the Coca-Cola commercial where somebody opens the door and then the next person goes and picks up a piece of trash from the ground and throws it away, and somebody sees that and they help somebody across the street? It's a chain reaction. Okay, so you can start that chain reaction. You've got the power to do that. Okay, that's how you will find your way to empathy. So I want you to take a minute and try to think about a memorable interaction that you've had in your lifetime. I want you to take a second, think about who was involved. Was it someone familiar? Was it a stranger? How did you feel at a time that that was happening? And what was your lingering memory of that? Was it a good memory? Was it positive? Or do you feel scarred by it? Now, try to think of an interaction that you've had where you've left an indelible mark. And I want you to answer those same questions. What might have been the outcome of something you did? Okay, was it positive? What impact did you have on the other person? Was it positive? Did they go away feeling good, or did you leave them feeling scarred and laying in bed at night dwelling on that? All right. So here's where the 5-to-1 golden ratio comes in, because you see, and the point that I've just made is that you have a choice. We all have choices, and we've been there. We've had bad interactions with people that have left a mark on us, good or bad, and we've left marks on other people, good and bad. So I want you to know that studies in the field of social psychology show that it takes 5 positive interactions to make up for every 1 bad encounter you have with somebody. It's called the 5-to-1 magic ratio. Think of it as a simple formula for building healthy relationships. This could be in our personal relationships, our work relationships, or relationships with people we encounter in our community. Try by simply paying someone a compliment. Or again, if you have to give feedback and it seems critical, don't be miserly about recognizing what they did right as much as what needs to be changed. Okay, simple things like that. Offering a few encouraging words in the office for no reason, maybe. Just you did a great job running that meeting. Show appreciation. Help a coworker save face. Or simply greet your coworkers with a smile. All very simple things that are good interactions. Okay, and the good news is you can bank those. So if you've got 5 of those interactions banked, for every 1 bad interaction you have with somebody, the empathy is already built up. You've already got that empathy bank full. And so that 1 interaction is not going to be the horrible thing it could be, where everybody goes home sleeping, dwelling on it on their pillow at night. It can be helped. You've already got some good stuff banked. There's some familiarity, that there's good intention with this person, and you can start to address things in a productive manner more readily. Okay. So just, forgive yourself. We're all human. We all have momentary lapses in judgment or mindless rush moments when we're unaware of what we're leaving in our wake. So while we are consciously making somebody's day with a kind gesture, you're banking those encounters, and you're also, you're changing you're changing the day. Okay. So let's end this. I'm going to first, I'm going to show a video at the very end of this, and it's something that happened recently, but let me just say that incorporating empathy into your daily interaction is the seer's commitment. You're seeing more deeply, and you're allowing yourself to be seen. Okay, that reciprocal activity is what makes this human bond happen. And that brings us full circle to the beginning of the workshop. Truly seeing another person is about seeing the equal human in front of us, the beautiful parts, the ugly parts, the perfect parts, and the flawed parts, just like us. Consider the Japanese concept of wabi-sabi, right? We're beautiful in our imperfections. Let us open our circles just a little more to let in new perspectives, so we can shift our focus from defending ourselves to focusing on our needs and the needs of each person we interact with every day. And let us make empathy a part of our automated response instead of anything else. I mean, there's any number of ways we choose. So let's make empathy part of our automated response instead of some of the older habits that don't play out well. Okay, if more of us, well, actually, a final thought is that empathy, think of it as an elixir. Empathy is an elixir for the heavy load that all of us are carrying every day. And if more of us believe that, maybe we'd be able to throttle down all the noise and we'd eventually be where we all want to be, and that is to be valued. Okay, so I'm going to play a clip, and some of you may have seen this in the news. It's a recent story. This has to do with the Little League the series, the World Series, the Little League World Series, and this is, to me, pure empathy, and I'm just going to play it because I think that it speaks for itself. Can you hear? Nod if you can hear. Thumbs up, Julie, you can't? Okay. I'm going to stop the share, and I'm going to reshare with the sound turned on, because I think I forgot to check share sound. There we go. Okay, ready? Let's try this again.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Wow, that is a tough kid right there. So this is really cool because as a pitcher, Bubs looks shaken
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that.
up right now because of what he did. And look at Zay Jarvis. This is such great sportsmanship. He wants him to know that it's okay, that he'll be fine.
Hey, bub. Look at me. Look at me. You're all right.
Amazing.
You're all right. Look at me. Hey, look. You didn't do it.
All right. What do you think of that? You can go ahead and unmute if anybody has any comments. My own personal thoughts on that is just pure empathy from both ends. The pitcher obviously felt bad because he was feeling what this kid was feeling. Not just the pain, but the embarrassment, the whole thing. And he was embarrassed. And what did Zay Jarvis do? What could be more empathic than the hug? And I don't know if you could hear what he said, but he said, "You're going to be okay. I'm fine, so you're going to be okay." Now, I just think that's beautiful. So I'm going to open up for questions. Were there any questions that we should start with in chat, Julie?
A lot of people are commenting about the video and whatnot.
Awesome.
And let's see here. Okay, we've got a lot of things coming in. So most people are commenting on the videos.
It's beautiful, yeah?
Yeah, most people are commenting on the videos. Let's see. Somebody shared a new structural modification to Maslow's classic hierarchy of human motives. And they're giving a link to a website to check that out. It's kind of interesting. I clicked in on it. A lot of people are talking about the video.
Excellent.
And then, okay, let's see. Someone's saying empathy as a service requires mindfulness skills and many hours of preparation through compassion, meditation, etc. What is the true cost price of an hour of empathizing? What is the true cost price of failing to practice trauma-informed empathy when paid by taxpayers to do no harm? I think it's sort of a rhetorical question.
But it's a good point. It's actually a point well made, is that weigh the cost by not doing it and what's lost, because we do. When we have bad interactions, we dwell. Who here doesn't? Raise your hand if you are able to just let something go and just get on with that next thing in your job. We don't do that. In fact, we take it home with us and we'll dwell on it for the rest of the day, maybe the rest of the week, maybe for a month, maybe for longer. So it is, what is the cost of taking 5 minutes out, or 20? 20 minutes is nothing compared to a month or a year, and then what can smolder and build after that. Raise your hand, you mediators, if you've mediated cases that have started with something as simple as they didn't say hello that first day on the job, right? It comes down to something so small that could have taken 20 minutes. And 3 years later, you're spending the money moving offices, adjusting hours, paying for mediators. Good point. Thank you for that point.
One time a mediation started with, they knew each other and they had been in church together, and they started off, can we pray together? And the other party said yes. And I said, all right. I was very happy that was the start to the mediation.
Right? That's a really good sign, Julie. Anybody else?
Questions or comments for Anne?
Nobody remembered the first issue.
A lot of people are commenting they're enjoying. Thank you for your session. Just to let people know, we will be sending out slides. The slides that you are
We're going to send out slides and 2 articles. I'm trying to pop the one article into chat, and for some reason it's not letting me, but I've got 2 articles that I will send with to Julie, and she'll be able to send along, and they're both excellent articles. One of them is the premise for this whole slideshow, and the other one is that ways to allow people to save face, and I think it's a very important article to read and reread.
Someone's asking, how do you deal with individuals who have a need for trauma healing before they're able to stop and go through the 20 minutes and identify feelings?
Who need to go through the trauma healing?
Who have a need for trauma healing before they're able to stop and go through the 20 minutes and identify.
Well, the 20 minutes is the cycle for crisis, right? That's the fight or flight reaction cycle, is a 20-minute, there's a 20-minute recovery. If there's something deeper going on, there's some real trauma, 20 is the minimum. It's actually 18 minutes, but that's the minimum. It's the minimum that I want you to take to just regroup and reset your own self. Okay, and it gives somebody time, if there isn't a lot more going on, it gives somebody time to get reset themselves, even if it's just to come back together to say, we can't do this today, let's set a time tomorrow where we're going to meet. Okay, so that 18 to 20 minutes is the minimum, just to reset, to collect yourself enough and let somebody else collect themselves enough to figure out what the next steps are going to be, how you're going to engage or how they're going to engage and when. So if there's a lot more going on, then that 20 minutes is just so you can do that. It's just simply, okay, we've got a lot going on here. Let's come together again. Tomorrow, we're going to come together with a mediator, or next week. I think that this is going to be better if we have a third party helping us through this. Okay, I don't know if that answers the question, but I just want to make clear that that 20 minutes isn't going to be all it takes to solve the problem. That's just the time for you to reset and come up with a better way to start engaging, because that's how long it's going to take for both of you to go through that fight or flight cycle. Does that make sense?
So I want to thank everyone for being here today. Please do click into the online survey. I've put it a few times in the chat box as it keeps getting pushed up. And it does help with our grant funding to continue this free online series. Check your emails in the coming days. We will have a link to the slides, the video, and the articles that Anne was talking about. And we really hope that you will join us next month for Morality, Justice, and Conflict. What do people need to accept a resolution? And I will again put that link to sign up for that in the chat. You'll be getting an email from us. You'll be on our email list now. So thank you. And can we all give a beautiful Zoom round of applause for our speaker, Anne?
Thank you. Thank you all for coming and enduring this whole talk. I appreciate it. It's good to see a lot of you again.
Aloha.
Julie, are you going to be here, or do you wait, or are you